right, so let's focus on the eye. Let's spend some time focusing on the eye shape. And I'm going to get some brushes here to help me out here. Let me get the right brushes that I need. We'll use these here. All right, so I've got my palette here. I've got it in camera. And I've got my eyes. And we're just going to focus on the two eye shapes. And I'm going to put the reference photo in the corner of the screen here. So I'm just kind of taking a look. I've got my reference photo I'm going to put in the side of the screen, and I've got my palette. So I've added a camera to record my palette as I go here. And let me just straighten that out here. There we go. Boom, boom. And so I'm going to work on the eyes. And let's get really close here so we can see. And I'm going to take a look at my eye shape. So let's just take a look at the palette for right now. All right. So I've got my warmer colors. Everything's kind of separated by value here. And I've got my, my greens, my blues. I've got my, my reds, my yellows that we kind of dealt with earlier, putting the palette together. So how am I going to navigate? How do I work through my palette here? And so let's just take a look. So I've got my line. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got 7 lines of value. And I'm just going to, so I can see the whole thing here. There we go. Okay. And so first thing I'm going to do is establish my mid-tone. Based on my skin tone, what is my middle value, my mid-tone going to be? And it doesn't have to be perfect right off, but we're just blocking in right now. But my mid-tone will usually be somewhere between the 3 and the 5. Somewhere in between here is going to be my mid-tone color. And then these, as I get darker, these will kind of help me with shadow and help me with getting darker in my shadow shapes. And then below that mid-tone, these will be the colors, the values that will help me with my lighter shapes, my highlight shapes, my lighter areas of my skin tone. Now, if there's a darker skin tone, I may need to get darker, and I would adjust my values. I might even go darker. I might shift if I was doing a dark-skinned person, very dark-skinned person. I might adjust my palette, and maybe 1 month we'll do that. If I was doing a lighter-skinned person with a lighter complexion, my mid-tone may, go below that, maybe in the line 3. But I try to stick right in the middle there, right in that area. I'm just going to determine, I'm going to go right in the middle, and I'll make line 4 will be my mid-tone. And then everything above that line 5, 6, and 7 will help me with my darker shapes. And then line 3, 2, and 1 will help me with my lighter shapes. Okay. And so how do I determine? I'm looking at the eye. And another thing I need to kind of think about is my skin tone more on the rosier, pinkish, peachy? What is my overall skin tone? And some of us have olivey, more olive skin tones. Some of our, Let me get my mic here. Some of us have more rosier skin tones. Some of us have more yellowy skin tones or redder, or so you want to get the overall feel. So I'm looking at and when I look at my skin tone, there's like a greenish, yellowish greenish base to my skin tone. So I have a very olivey skin tone, but very light, you know, and I also have a lot of rosiness in my cheeks, and I have a lot of greenish tones and more kind of grayer greenish tones in my chin area. So, but we're focusing on the eyes. So I'm going to take a look at this kind of area right here, right? Because this kind of gives me my overall skin midtone. And it is on the olivey kind of, not really rosy. So I'm going to start in the middle here. I'm going to start with my yellow. I'll add a little bit of the linseed oil there to make it move. And I'm just going to take a look. I'm going to add some of the magenta to that. It's shaking. Try not to. And I'm going to add a little bit of the green. And I'm just sticking with my line 4. And I can mix in my little sections here. If you can see that there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to add that a little bit more of the magenta, and I can adjust from there, because what I see here and what is kind of happening on the canvas can look like two different things. So it's very lower chroma. If you're looking, let me raise it so you can see it. There we go. Very lower looking gray right now, but I'm going to kind of add some of that transparent red earth. And I'm just going to add that to this area here. So I'm just focused here, trying to develop a mid-tone color there. Let me get my paper towel here. And so I test it out. I see, I have a lot of the burnt sienna, so it is definitely influencing what I'm seeing here. And stepping back to look, it's a little too gray. So I'm just going to take my paper towel and just kind of rub it. And I'm going to continue to adjust. And I'm going to go in, and maybe I need to just make it a little bit rosier. And I add a little bit more yellow. And I can play around with the color. And I think that's a little bit better. And I know it looks kind of gray. It doesn't look like skin tone. But really, in honesty, skin tone is not as saturated than we think. It's not the burnt siennas. It's not it's not necessarily, the colors right out the tube. Skin tone is very gray. All right, so it's kind of where I want it to be. I like it. It's working. I know it looks kind of gray, but it will come together. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my dark areas, my shadow areas and my darker areas. I'm going to start kind of blocking those in. Now, I notice I'm not going to go all the way to the top, but I'm going to go to my line 5, and I'm going to mix my yellow and my Viridian. And I'm going to add a little bit of the cadmium red. And because what I'm noticing is I'm not seeing like dark And I'm taking a look at some of the dark areas there. You know, I have the lines under my eyes. I have some dark hitting right here. And my eyebrows. I'm just going to tap in for my eyebrows here. But I'm going to go in and just kind of tap in some of the dark here. And I'm still in kind of a block in phase. So I'm not in this kind of phase of painting. I'm just blocking in color. Now I made that dark mixture there. I'm going to go down another value and use those same colors to create another kind of a lower value of that mixture. And I'm just going to go in and just block in, looking at, you can use the posterized view, but I'm looking at my dark areas. Taking a look here at my shapes. And just blocking that in. Now I'm noticing under my eye area, I'm just going to go in and just add a little bit of shadow there in between there as well. I am noticing under the eye area, I'm going to go back to my mid-tone. I'm noticing some pinkish, like purple-ish. So I picked up my alizarin crimson. I added a little bit of the blue. I'm going to add a little bit of that transparent earth to that. And I'm just going to go in and just tap in some of that color. Okay. So I've done a little bit, just a touch of it. Again, I'm in this blocking in phase. So I'm not in this phase of completion right now. I'm getting information and I'm kind of blocking that information down. So I've got my darks, some of my darks. Now I'm going to kind of go the other direction and I'm going to get my lights going. And I'm going to skip a line and I'm not going to go all the way down here. I'm going to go to line 2. And I'm just going to mix my yellow and red to get a lighter shade here. And I want to cool it down again. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the green. And so I mix the yellow and the red. And I'm going to look for those lighter areas. I'm just going to tap those in. You can add a little bit of the linseed oil to help move paint. And I'm just looking for those lighter areas. This kind of got away from me here. And just kind of tapping in those shapes there. Stepping back to observe. Again, just kind of taking a look at those lighter areas and tapping them in. And beginning to create shape. I'm beginning to see information. I'm going to go up. I skipped this line. I'm going to go up to my 3, my value line 3. I'm going to mix that same thing. Yellow, red and the green, and I'm just going to kind of make that value, it's a little bit darker in value, still light, but a little bit darker, because remember, the eyes are like spheres. They're curving, right? And the upper and lower lid are holding that value in place. Okay. And then I'm going to return to my mid-tone again and just kind of mix a little bit more. I'm going to go again with that yellow and red, a little bit of green here. And I'm going to go in to those other areas that I didn't touch, right? I'm just going to kind of link the light with my shadow shapes here. And again, I'm not in this time or point of the process, I'm not trying to blend. I'm not trying to make pretty. I'm trying to just get information. And I'm just making small marks, looking at the shapes. Keep going. I added my dark, a mid-tone, and my light. Now I know it looks a little dark. I'm going to start at, it looks a little grayish. But again, I'm getting information. I'm not looking for pretty right now. I'm just looking to get information and get, start working on my value and my shape and my form. All right, so now let's take a look. Just kind of brighten that up a bit. Let's take a look, because there is some reddish in my, I'm going to go in and I'm going to mix some of that red, the alizarin crimson, in my cadmium red, and I'm in my mid-tone line, which is line 4, in some of the transparent earth. And I'm just going to try to add some color in there. Little bit at a time. And I do see some kind of rosy, pinkish tones in that area. Just kind of getting some color in there. Now let's go into the middle of the eye. Now we've got the pupils in the eye. I'm just going to go in with my, I did my phthalo blue and my burnt umber. I'm just going to go in and just kind of block in that dark, where I see the dark shape. And then I'm looking at the whites of the eyes. And remember, the whites of the eyes are not white. I'm going to go into my little purple here. And I'm going to add a little bit of the blue here. And I'm going to use that. I'm going to see what that does. Always stepping back. That blue is pretty bright. So I want to kind of gray it out a bit. So I'm going to use some of this purple that I created. I'm just going to kind of take my paper towel just to knock it back a bit. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side here. And it does get a little bit lighter in the insides of the eyes there. And just kind of taking a look, I'm going to go ahead and use my burnt sienna to just kind of tap in some dark in there, a little bit darker, but not too dark right now. I'm just kind of working that mid value. And then I'll get a little bit, I'll go a little bit higher. I'm going to use my burnt sienna. I'm going to get some of the ultramarine blue for dark. And just kind of tap in, you know, the upper lid area, that dark area. I just kind of tap it in. Creating some shape here. I'll do the same here. Okay. Now I just want you to see that there's nothing like, it's very kind of loose. It's very kind of like, there isn't a, let me go back in with there isn't like neatness to this part of the process. It's a work, definitely a work in progress here. I'm going to go in with that same mixture that I did for the dark. I'm just going to add a little bit of dark, little tiny bits of dark to the eyebrow area. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a smaller brush and I'm going to start kind of putting it all together. I'm starting and I see shape coming, but I'm going to start kind of really putting it together. And I'm going to again return to my line 4 and I'm going to take a look. And I'm going to start shaping. Shaping the eye area. And here I just kind of start pulling, still kind of pulling from my line 4, starting to add color and add shape there. It's a little darker. I'm going to go in with the burnt sienna, just a little bit of the Viridian to get some shadow color going in between the eyes, just a bit. A little bit of the, if it's ever too much, I can just kind of take some paper towel and just kind of blot it down as well. I'll get my larger brush to just kind of tap that. I'm going to go to a lower line there to just start creating the shape in the upper lid area. That's a little too green now that I step back on that. So I'm going to take my paper towel and just kind of knock it back a bit. Sometimes it's a little too much. I'm going to go into my higher line here. I'm going to mix the alizarin crimson with the burnt sienna. And I see a lot of redness in the dark area, in the crease of the eye. And I'm just going to tap that in a bit. And I'll take my other brush to just kind of soften it. And I can push some of that color up. as well to create that shape of the upper lid. I'm gonna go back into my mid-tone and bring in some more light underneath the bags under my eyes here. And I'm gonna go to this line 3 here to just lighten it up a bit. Mix some of the yellow with the transparent red. Stepping back to observe here. I'm going to do that in the same, might be a little too light. I'm just trying to get shape. I'm not worried about the cheeks. I'm just trying to get shape here. Okay, I'm going to continue working the shape here. I'm going to go back in with that mixture and go back in with my light in that area here. There's a little bit of light kind of hitting right there here. And we'll go back, we'll do the same thing on this side. I'm going to use my transparent earth red to kind of get that in. I'm also softening the area where the eyebrows, the lower part of the eyebrows as well. And same with the lid here. We're going to continue building it up here. I'm using the cadmium and the transparent red. There's probably some purple in there too. Definitely see some of that in there. I'm going to go in with some of the purple. Discovery kind of feel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in with my lights. I'm going to take a look because they are a little cooler. I'm going to use some of this purple, my all mixture, and a little bit of the alizarin crimson. And I'm just going to go back in and block in. I might get even lighter. Let me get even lighter here. I'm going to add a little bit of the linseed oil so it flows a little bit easier. And I'm just going to go in and add some of that light in certain areas here. Just kind of tap it in, and it's going to help me get some shape. That might be too light. That just might be too light, so I'm just going to soften it a bit. And I just kind of go in and take the other brush to kind of soften that a bit there. But I'm starting to get shape here. As you can see, I'm starting really focusing on the value in the shape. I'm not looking for pretty right now. I will go back in with another, gonna go in with another layer to kind of focus on some of the detail. and some of the color. I'm going to step back and just observe for a second here and just kind of see where I am. And I'm just going to back it up. I'm going to back it up a bit just to see it. Whoa. Just to see it here. And it's starting to come together. Again, you know, it's not what you're used to. You know, there's a lot of grays going on there. It's kind of my first pass. And what I'll do is I'll let this sit. I'll take a photo of it and I'll see where else I need to make adjustments. Do I need to hike up shadow in certain areas? Or do I need to hike up the light? Is the mid-tone right? It does look kind of gray. It does. And that's a more realistic interpretation of skin tone. It's a little bit more grayer than what we think skin tone is. So I definitely see the nose is shifting. So I definitely want to kind of revisit areas. But what I'll do is I'll let this dry. I'll revisit it tomorrow. It should be slightly drier, adding just another block in layer. No detail. I'm not looking for any detail. I'm going to keep my brush strokes very loose and soft. Make sure I smudge and soften lines. But right now I'm in a good space. I can see shape. I can see form coming. I definitely can see areas that I need to adjust. And I definitely see the eyeball looks like it's inside the eye. So I'm going to stay here for a second. And then I will do another layer tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll focus on the nose. So tomorrow we'll do the same thing with the nose. And then I will actually do a little bit more kind of touching up in the eye area as well. All right, so this is the lesson for today. We focused on the eyes, looking at the different shapes and value. Again, we're not searching for pretty. We're looking to get the value. We're looking to create the shape and understanding the plane. So we're creating the form. And so hopefully that helps. So I'll see you tomorrow.